All right, so far we've talked about committing to self-mastery, committing to the 80-20 principle. Then step three was moving from E to P, getting more purposeful in our activities, our actions. And next we're going to talk about making step 4, which is being learning based the foundation of your action plan. Okay, so okay, perfect. Slides work. All right, so making learning based being the foundation of our action plan. A learning based individual is an individual who has made the decision to use effective learning as the foundation piece for their action plan to develop their life. I've shared with a lot of people that one of the great things, I think, well, obviously earlier we talked about the network being really awesome and trying to pay heavily. You guys good?
Yeah. Sorry. Getting in trouble.
The other instructor back there, being disruptive to class. Leave it to him. So we talked about the network being really good and really important inside of Keller Williams. Well, another great thing that KW has is all of this training, like this catalog of great training that we have. It's not just like Josh and John came up with this out of their back pocket. Like, no, this is designed purposely to help people achieve their best life. So with that, I often say one of the downsides of KW is also the great training. Because there's so much training. It's just like a guy like me who actually I have joy and pleasure in learning new things, but I don't need to learn everything all the time. And so I share with people, if you're not careful, you can become a professional student, meaning your cheeks are in seats all day, and you're not actually out there generating income, earning money, moving the needle forward. And it can also be a distraction of what should you actually do? What should you be learning? Right? What classes should you be attending? That's where the accountability comes into play. We'll get more into that in a minute. But make being learning based the foundation of your action plan. It's knowing where you're at, knowing where to go, knowing what obstacles are in the way. You guys remember an activity that we did very similar to that earlier this morning, and then identifying trainings that are going to help move you forward. As you start to attend trainings, you're going to start to recognize that there's 4 levels of competency. Four levels of competency. Number 1, unconscious incompetence. Basically, we don't know what we don't know. Like we're green. I don't know about you guys, but I got into real estate because my realtor set up. She thought I'd be really good at it, and I hated what I was doing before real estate. So I'm like, okay, I'll try this out. Got my license insurance on day 1. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to show a lot of houses, make a bunch of money. My life is great. And it's like, oh, I have to lead generate. I have to learn how to market and learn how to have good, powerful conversations, learn how to manage budget, and learn all these things. Like, oh, I didn't really know what I was coming into. That was unconscious incompetence. When we first start something, we don't know what we don't know. After a period of time, we start to learn some things. And when we start to learn some things, one of the first things we start to learn is how much we don't know, which is conscious incompetence. We now know what we don't know. Right? And now that we know what we don't know, we can get intentional on what we need to know to move us forward. And that's where conscious competence starts to come into play. Now we know, so we're moving forward, right? Then once you've learned a new skill and you practice it over time, just like I mentioned brushing your teeth this morning, you do it on autopilot. If somebody asks you how you do it, you almost have to stop and think, well, how do I do it? Do I get the brush wet first? Do I use cold water, hot water? It's just programmed in, right? Tying your shoe. I bet you can't tell me in great detail right now how you tie your shoe. If you had to verbally tell me, I bet you couldn't do it. Because it's all, look, he's like, I'm not going to let you.
No, it's struggling.
It's like,
I don't think that one.
So you just it becomes autopilot. Right now, you're unconsciously competent, like you're just so good at it, you don't even have to think about it, doesn't take you any time, right? So when you're looking at these 4 areas, I'm curious for you, which do you think is the most dangerous one to be in? Unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, or unconscious competence? So basically,
Dangerous fan? That we
you say something most painful to be. Hear someone say conscious incompetence. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm reading. Forgot my glasses, but I'm trying to read.
I don't actually know the answer on it, but I think it's an educated guess, but I think it's number 1. That's my guess.
Most uncomfortable? Or most painful?
Yeah, it's probably the most dangerous, but not the most.
You don't know what you.
Number 1 is like,
Ignorance
never
is
heard
bliss, yeah.
bingo. Number 1, ignorance is bliss.
Going with 2, because now I know what I don't know, and now I'm no longer ignorance is bliss, now I'm like. Just ignorance.
Yeah, now I know. So there you go. You know, what's that percentage, like 4 to 5, right? Or like,
The
4 to 5.
dial to contact 12%, contact us at 5%, is that what you're
Yeah, contact is at 5%. All right, now we know that. We're no longer ignorant to that. Now we can go back and do our numbers and figure out, well, wait, I have 1. Now we're consciously incompetent. Right? What happens if you don't do something about that?
I get really super frustrating after a very short period of time, and you just give up altogether.
It starts to get painful. When you're consciously incompetent in important areas of your life, and you don't do something to change it, it starts to get painful over time. It can be depressing. You can start to lose passion. This is when you recognize this, you have to be very good at, okay, identifying what you need to learn, so that way you can take action and move forward, right? Then you're going to move into conscious competence, meaning you know what you know what you're good at. And I think this is actually the best one to be. Because now when you're consciously competent, you can delegate. It's easy for you to scale up because you can give it to someone else very easily. Who's ever hired who's hired an assistant at some point? 2, 3, 4. When you hired an assistant, what's the first thing you had to do?
Pick up the stuff that you don't want to do.
What was that?
Administrative. Look, what?
How did you tell them to do it? How did you tell them to do it?
I'm like.
I
By
really,
giving a job description, by assigning a task, by conveying a task to them.
okay, that's one way to do it. Can I share my personal experience? When I hired my assistant, I was very clear. It's a complete mess. Like, I want you to know when you come in, it's not like this pretty thing. It's messy. If I had a mess, if it wasn't messy, I wouldn't need you. Like, and so like I followed the KPA, career visioning, bring her in, and I said, I don't even know where you need to start. I need you to watch me. Just watch me and follow me and just come along with everything that I do, and then I need you to figure it out. Like, you solve these problems. And that's what I did, because I was just like, oh, when the contract comes in, okay, I'm just instinctively doing these things. It's all up here. I don't have it written down. There's no like, it's just I'm consciously competent or unconsciously competent. Right? Anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I think the system was great. I think it's gonna apply in our real estate practices. Like our job to have conversations with people. That which really, that we have to have conversations with people when they ask a question. Like, it's now a good time to buy. I read something on, Yahoo Finance said the market's gonna crash. Like, where are you on this, and how to respond to that question? is now a good time to sell, like blah, 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 blah. Do you think interest rates are gonna come down? Like, I hear a lot about that. Like, what is your response to that, and where are you here? Are you kind of like just winging it, like wherever it comes up, or do you have like everything that somebody asks me, I know exactly what my rebuttal is, my comeback is, that can lead them down a path of self-discovery? So, and I think that's where it comes back to what we call conversation starters.
Conversation frameworks.
Conversation framework. So like, when I was, out of college, I was a stockbroker, and I was there for 7 years. And for like the first year, we had, gosh, I'm dating myself. We had to sit up on stage in front of all the other kind of trainees, for lack of a better word. 2 chairs back to back. And then somebody would give us a objective.
Rebuttal or objection?
And then we had to go. And we had to do that like every week, every Tuesday night. From like 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock, we had to do that in front of a group of like 20 or 30 different people. Until we mastered and became unconsciously competent about when somebody asked us questions. Well, here's what we have, and we would just do this back and forth, back and forth. It was really embarrassing. Like,
No, but-
at the beginning, but you got it in mastery.
Here's the thing, you wanna get really good at your listing presentation? Role play at a team meeting. If you wanna, that's like highly intentional, being purposeful with things you wanna develop. If you know you wanna dial in your listing presentation, find an actual system presentation, don't just wing it. Practice it and then do it at a listing presentation or at a team meeting in front of your peers and get feedback. Like, I've done it several times and it never gets any less nerve wracking. It's nerve wracking every time, but you get better fast.
The
Really
time to
fast.
practice is not on the court. Well, not in the game, it's on the court, not in the game.
So high achievers reach their goals by making training, education, and self-development the foundational piece of their action plan. Again, just being aware of where you're at and the areas of importance in your life and taking the appropriate action to get to the next level, right? You've identified a goal, you've identified your big rocks, you've identified shortcomings that could be in the way. None of you have the paperwork, the manual. Does anyone have the manual? Okay, all right. Well, can you send them the manual later?
Absolutely.
Everybody that's keeping notes,
Right now.
I want you all to write notes. Review the agent curriculum path on page 61. So this is like homework. So on page 61, 63, 65, 67.
Whatever that's.
No, so these are all resources. These are your resources. So remember I talked about the officer training that came under that? These are the agent curriculum path. So you have launch, intentional. Yep. And so like on these pages, on these pages, you'll see a list, like it lists, this is launch, ignite, time management, perform on, these are classes. And then there's a description underneath the class that talks about what you can expect to take away from the class. So now that you've identified gaps, your weaknesses, you can go through these pages and identify, okay, this sounds like this is the class that I need to help me this weakness to develop, so that way I can move on and take it to the next level. You with me? A big part of this chapter is going through each of those things.
And I'll tell you that the biggest mistake that I made earliest in my career, it took me about 5 years, 4 years, to realize that I was actually my biggest problem. Because I thought I was intelligent, and I didn't want to apply models and systems like other people that had already done it before me. But I thought I would just recreate it. I'm just gonna do it better. I'm gonna build a better mousetrap. Like screw all these old.
These smart people that have
These
figured it
smart
all
people.
out.
And it took me about 4 years to realize, oh, maybe I just need to follow models. Like I fault them, and that probably cost me a lot. And it's gray hair.
There's another layer to this too. I've seen this kind of go around on Instagram Reels or on memes or something that says it's not what we don't know that gets us into trouble. It's what we think we know that isn't true. Right? So don't be so high on the hog that you think you have this all figured out, even if you're at a really high level of success. The people at really, really high levels of success, they're probably asking the most questions because they have different problems. Right? So if you start to find yourself get into a stride, don't let your ego get the best of you. Right? Stay humble, stay curious, and continue asking questions.
I can tell you a funny story. So I've been, I would say privileged. I've been on Gary's population mastermind group. And this is a while ago, he kind of pivoted. And every time, like the way that he would do his masterminds is he would literally sit up here and say, so what's up? That's how he would start. There was no script, there was no like preparation to be like, so what's up? Let's have a conversation. And then almost every time someone would start off saying something, and then he would draw this. What is that? Yep.
It's a crooked triangle.
Yeah, that triangle. So he would dive into that. So I don't know. There were
What does everyone know what that is?
leads, listings, leverage. Does everybody know what that is? Like 3 L's.
I don't think everyone does. Some people do, but not everyone.
All right. So it's leads, listings, leverage. Like it's in the MREA. I don't know what page it is. But like this is our business. Like we need to generate enough leads to generate enough listings. Once we've mastered that, then we employ leverage, and then we keep building from there. So listings are the leverage. Listings are leverage. We can hire leverage. Like
To that point, leverage doesn't always mean a person, right? Leverage could be a system. It could be a better checklist. Leverage could be increasing your conversation frameworks, increasing your skills around conversation frameworks. Because think, if you're able to reach 5 people an hour, but you're only able to convert one of them, well, what if you were able to convert 2 or 3? Right? So now you've leveraged your skill set to give you your time back. And now if maybe you can accomplish it in 1 hour, or maybe you can just go for the moon and now you can double your production, right? By improving your skill set, your effectiveness, right?
And Gary would walk in, he's like notorious for being 5 or 10 minutes behind on those days. So, and I don't know if it was 4 or 5 or 6, 7 times that we've gone through this. Well, someone thought, and I will mention his name, someone thought it was, and Gary had this Elmo thing, you draw on this little thing, and then, what is that called? Elmo. And then he would draw it. So somebody thought it was gonna be funny to just get ahead of Gary. When Gary Keller walked into the room, somebody had already taken the Elmo thing and drew this triangle. And so Gary walks in the room and he looks and he says, and everybody's laughing now. Like, haha, we got, and he said, and then Gary said, so you all think this is funny? He said, do you know why I keep putting that up there? Because you all don't get it. And then until you get this, we're going to keep talking about it because there's nothing else to talk about. And then the room got really, really quiet. And I was like, okay. And then he would dive. Unless you all can show me a system to generate enough of this, to build your business by design, we have to keep talking about. So the foundation, like the foundational principles kind of never change. Like how we do it may change, but some people would say like MREA might be outdated or whatever. But what did it talk about? It talked about a database. The only thing that's changed is we now have social media. We have different ways to communicate with people. But if you're the greatest TikTok influencer known to man, what are you doing with the idea behind TikTok? I would imagine is to get people to get in contact with you. How they do that, I don't know on TikTok. I'm not really on TikTok. But I would imagine the idea is to get someone reaches out to you and says something, I like your video or this or whatever it is. And then what do you do with it? The idea is to put them into a database. So the database never changes. Matter of fact, what I would say is that actually becomes 10 times more relevant today than 20 years ago. Because your clients, past clients, friends, family, are in somebody else's database. And not only that, but I'll tell you another interesting story. Years and years ago, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I refinanced my house with my buddy that's a loan officer. And I would get these monthly emails or whatever, and I never read any of them, but this one caught my eye and it said something like, would you like to know your house value? And I was like, this is kind of interesting. Like, how is my loan officer like telling me my house is value? So I clicked on the link. When I clicked on the link, it took me to a third-party site. A third-party site that this site's design was to generate leads and then sell them back to agents. So I'm like, oh my God, like my loan officer friend is selling my data to third-party sites, who then is trying to capture my information to sell me back myself as a lead for a 35% referral fee. We're in a different game now where your client's data is out there. People are worried about Zillow. Like, dude, your data's everywhere. Everybody in here, trust me, I can find out more about you than you want me to know. I can even get your social security number if I know where to find it. Like, data is everywhere now. So the data game is gone. The question is, how do we stay in relationship, knowing that all of these different companies and all these different providers are marketing our clients? And what they're trying to do is take them away from us. Amex, for instance, so if you're an Amex Platinum card holder, they now have set up a real estate referral network. And if you sell your house with a preferred Amex quote unquote agent, you will get a certain number of reward points for selling your house. So Amex is now moving into the real estate referral business. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when Amazon moves into that business. Google moves into that business. These other companies will eventually identify, wow, Amazon knows your clients better than most of you know your clients. So Amazon knows that you're buying this, you're buying paint, like you're shopping here offline. You just went to Home Depot last week. You're searching for these different keywords on the internet. And then how much is it going to take for Amazon to put a little pop-up ad and say, hey, by the way, if you'd like to use one of our Amazon preferred real estate agents, we will give you blah, 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 blah.
Target famously knows when you're pregnant before, like, you know that you're pregnant. Which means that they know you're gonna be shopping for a house, which means. God damn it,
The only way to combat this is for us, so, I'm going off on a tangent here that has nothing to do with being learning based, but it's awareness.
Well, it kind of does because you're dropping bombs on everybody here, John.
So-
You're helping everyone be more consciously competent.
Well, what we're talking about is like our whole industry, it's a term of supply chain management called disintermediation. And it's basically where you remove out a segment in the supply chain to bring more efficiency or cut costs. Well, guess what? We're the ones that people are trying to disintermediate. So, and I'm happy to email you the article. There's an article written in the Harvard Business Review about how to combat disintermediation. And their solution, whatever Harvard Business Review came up with, and I don't know how they come up with this, but I guess they're smart people. They said to have a in-depth knowledge of a customer's wants and needs, and to apply a curated experience to solve that challenge, whatever it is. So basically, it's like, oh, you need to know your database really well. But like that's how I interpret that. Like you need to know your. You could kind of fake it 10 years ago, but moving forward, your database, I think, will be the single biggest, unless you just want to get in the habit of paying 35% referral fees. And if you want to build a business on 35% referral fees, you can do that. Just run the math on what that's going to look like, because your data is now everywhere. Your customer's data is now everywhere.
All right, so a big part of this chapter was going through and looking at the different training programs inside of KW. I'm going to pass that on to you as homework or to go back and look at that later to help identify opportunities that you have. If there's something that you would like to attend and it's not on your calendar either, talk to Brandon, talk to Alana. If it's not easily accessible in this market center, venture out into the KW ecosystem. You know, one of the things I've been stressing to our agents and our market center is your value at this company is not limited by these 4 walls. right? There's so many great resources outside of these four walls that are open to you as KW family members to go take advantage of. So as we wrap this chapter up, what are some ahas you heard during this segment? Yes, ma'am.
Just the four levels of competency. I actually learned about four levels of competency prior to this, so being able to see them come back and be used in a different way, being able to apply them to more than just what I had learned before is really good. It's kind of a useful tool to have.
Yeah, it's really good. It can help take the emotion out of just where you're at in the four phases, right? And now that you know, you can do something about it.
What else?
Just to go along with that, consciously, or number two, unconsciously, or
Consciously incompetent.
incompetent. Identifying,
That's the hard look in the mirror, right?
yeah, you need to identify what you need for it. That's if I put down these because I think it's a lot easier said than done to, and this just, no matter where you are in real estate, to not only look within yourself, but also look outward as one, like, what, now that maybe you just started, or maybe you've already been in the business for 10 plus years, but still having that ability to identify what you need to work on is crucial.
Yeah.
I think that any state.
And guys, this isn't just real estate, right? This is every area of your life. It's gonna be health, it can be fitness, it can be your key relationships, finances, anything. It's just, if you're not where you wanna be in your life, in any area in your life, you just need a system. You need to be clear with what you want, and you need to follow these steps to move it forward. Like, it's that simple. It's waking up and realizing you're no longer accepting status quo and doing something about it.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really good. Before we move to the next chapter, I want to ask a question. Who here thinks they can draw? Raise your hand if you think you can draw. Okay. Just one person. So one person here believes they can draw. John, you know where I'm going with this, right?
No, actually.
You don't know where I'm going? Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got it now.
So one person believes they can draw. Yes? Confirm. Okay. Imagine there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Imagine there was 11 first graders in here. And I asked them the question, who here can draw? All of them would have raised their hand. Right? Because when I asked the question, you heard who can draw well. That's not what I said. I said, who can draw? John has already proven that he can draw.
I can't draw.
He's also proven he can't draw well. But that wasn't the question I asked. The question was, who here can draw? So somewhere along the line, from the time we were first graders, so however old we are now, like, I'm not gonna ask how old here go there. Somewhere along the line, we've developed this limiting belief that we no longer can draw. Isn't that interesting?
Is that like a segue?
Yes.